In what could be a looming battle between special counsel Jack Smith and the judge overseeing Donald Trump's classified documents case, Judge Aileen Cannon, there already appears to be no love lost between federal prosecutors on Smith's team and Judge Cannon, who was appointed by Donald Trump and whose performance has been questioned by legal observers. Cannon has been slow to make some decisions, which happens to help Trump's delay strategy. And one of her major rulings in the investigation was overturned by a higher court. You might remember just a few days ago, prosecutors took the very unusual step of harshly lambasting her, suggesting that some of the judge's actions seemed based on a, quote, fundamentally flawed understanding of the case, though one that has, quote, no basis in law or fact. Well, Judge Cannon is now firing back in a filing of her own, leaving one to wonder how far this back and forth might go and whether special counsel Jack Smith might try to get Judge Cannon removed from the case. CNN's Paula Reed joins us now. And Paula, how is special counsel Jack Smith going to handle Judge Cannon's decision yesterday?
Well, Jake, I don't want to think of this so much as a personality clash as it is just a basic fact. Prosecutors can't go into a trial if they don't know how a judge is thinking about the law. And right now, they are asking the judge to decide whether she is going to let the Presidential Records Act factor into this case. That's that post-Watergate law that governs which records created during an administration belong to a president versus the government. Now, Trump is using this as one of his many defenses, arguing that these were, quote, personal records. The special counsel has asked Cannon to reject that. In that fiery late Tuesday night filing, they wrote, quote, "The court should be aware at the outset that Trump's entire effort to rely on the PRA is not based in any facts. It's a post hoc justification that was concocted more than a year after he left the White House." The problem is, Jake, in her opinion yesterday, she didn't really answer the question. So they can't really appeal something she hasn't said or done. But as we get closer to trial, this issue, this question, and many others will continue to come up. And if she does decide, when they have to put forth their defenses, that she will let this in, then the special counsel can appeal. But at this point, she hasn't decided anything that can be an appeal to the 11th Circuit.
Will the special counsel's team, do you think, try to get Judge Cannon recused from the case?
At this point, there is no indication in their filings or in speaking with sources that they're going to do that. But remember, Jake, she hasn't really done much. It's a very high bar to try to get someone removed from a case. But right now, they really wouldn't have much of a record to even present if they were going to make that effort. For example, she has such a backlog. She has over 8 motions to dismiss still sitting on her desk. She has 3 other major defense motions, and she still has not decided on a trial date. Once she starts making decisions, if they don't like what she does, they can certainly appeal, and then over time, they can try to build a record if they want to try to get her removed. But as of right now, there's no indication they're going to do that.
All right, Paula Reed, thanks so much. Also in our Law and Justice lead today, former Trump attorney John Eastman, the father of the illegitimate theory that Vice President Pence could single-handedly overturn the 2020 presidential election, is now fighting to get back his law license as he faces some of the consequences of his actions around January 6, 2021. A disciplinary hearing last month stripped Eastman of his ability to practice law in the state of California. Eastman is arguing in a new court filing that he needs to be able to work as a lawyer so he can pay his own legal bills. CNN's Caitlin Polance is following the story for us. Caitlin, what is his basic argument besides he needs the money, and what comes next for him?
Well, right now for John Eastman, he can't practice law, and he's on the path to disbarment, but he is telling a judge in California who has made his law license inactive and said he has no remorse what he was doing for Donald Trump after the election. This is something that is in violation of his ethics codes as a lawyer. He's telling that judge he has bills to pay. Those bills are because it's quite expensive to be a criminal defendant. He is one alongside Donald Trump in Fulton County, Georgia, for his 2020 election actions. He says his bills there are $1 million already, and if he goes to trial, which he says he wants to do to try and clear his name, his bills could be up to $3.5 million. So he wants to keep practicing law to be able to pay those bills. And what he's also revealed to this California attorney discipline judge, as he's trying to ask her to let him continue practicing law, he says, let me show you some of my clients. And those clients submitted letters and sworn statements to the court. They include the Colorado Republican Party, who has hired John Eastman to challenge the state's open primaries and two Republican members of Congress, pretty well-known people, Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who say in their letters there's no other competent, qualified attorney that they would trust like one John Eastman.
All right. Caitlin Polans, thanks so much. Joining me now to discuss is Ankush Kaduri. He's a former federal prosecutor. He currently covers legal issues for Politico magazine. Ankush, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to The Lead. Let's start with what we just heard about John Eastman. Does he have a strong legal argument when he claims that being a lawyer is his livelihood and he needs to be able to practice law to pay his bills?
I don't think it's a particularly strong legal argument. It's possible that the courts will have some sympathy for him. It's impossible to predict how they will resolve it. But I don't think this is a sympathetic argument at all. I mean, this man was a very bad lawyer, and he did a very bad job in quite possibly the highest stakes setting we could imagine in the run-up to January 6th and on January 6th. He really shouldn't be practicing law, and I don't know where Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene have been looking for lawyers, but he is definitely not the only competent lawyer that they can find. There are many, many more.
We know of two other former Trump attorneys who have taken plea deals in that Fulton County case to avoid trial, Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesbro. You interviewed John Eastman last year. Do you think his financial situation could affect his approach to the charges he's facing in Georgia?
I doubt it. And the reason why I say that is because when I spoke to him last year, as all this stuff was still underway, this proceeding was still underway, he was quite strident. And I think even to this day, he really has not acknowledged any kind of error or mistake or note of contrition throughout this whole proceeding. He seems to want to fight this until the last possible opportunity. And if he can't pay for his lawyers, many people can't pay for lawyers. They get public defenders.
Right. All right, let's hop from Georgia to Florida. When it comes to the classified documents case before Judge Eileen Cannon, there are questions about her conduct in this case. Some people wonder if she's just inexperienced. She was only confirmed at the end of 2020. Former Trump White House attorney Ty Cobb is not fully buying the idea that this is just inexperienced. And again, before I run this clip, I just want to remind people at home, this is a former Trump attorney. Let's roll the tape.
You know, yes, she may be incompetent, but at this stage of the game, you know, her incompetence is so gross that I think it clearly creates the perception of partiality and her attempt to put her thumb on the scale. So I think that should disqualify her.
What's your take?
I think I see things probably a little bit differently. I tend to ascribe these sorts of incidents where I can to sort of normal human frailties rather than malice. I do think she's inexperienced, not just on the sort of criminal classified document setting. That's very rare to have that type of experience, but more generally complex, large litigation. She doesn't seem to have any experience managing it, and a lot of the problems that Paula was referring to, the backlog of motions and things like that, I see as a function of that. And I also see some of the commentary that she has been making, including in this order this week, that has been rightly drawing a lot of attention as somewhat symptomatic, I think, of maybe things making her a little uneasy in terms of the attention she's getting and the negative attention she's getting.
All right. Ankush Kaduri, thank you so much. Good to see you. Welcome to the show.